Good. Okay. Well, um, I always write loads of notes out. The chances of me looking at them are quite unlikely, but there's things I'd like to try and say to you as a non-bell ringer, but who has got very felt very warm and affectionate towards you all as I've done my little bits of research to see where I might be able to share a few insights. So thanks for inviting me. I know Sally invited me, then I met Sally and Annie, and I've known Sally for about, I don't know, 25 years. Is it as much as that? Because our kids went to nursery together locally at Loughborough when we were both at the university. So I've observed her career over the years in bell ringing with affection. And I've also got a friend who rings at Thurkeston All Saints Church, where I did a little visit the other week because I'm a method psychologist. Obviously, I've got to go and try things out. I didn't had a little pull on is it a Sally? But didn't make any noise, which is unusual for me because I'm very noisy. So I might need my reading glass. I'm at that funny age now where I need to put these on to see what I've got to say. So, um, the thing about bell ringing, I became aware talking to Angela, talking to Sally and Annie, and my own research as well, that obviously there's a bit of a crisis potentially looming, isn't there, in terms of recruitment and all of these things. And whether it's desperation yet is another question. But I do know that Angela, my friend, said to me, because I went to visit All Saints, if Peter's not here, is he? Peter. Peter must be, is he the tower captain or whatever? She said, don't look him in the eye. So what do you mean? She said, well, if you look him in the eye, he'll have you ringing. Which I thought, I mean, there is research that says if you look into somebody's eyes for more than like 20 minutes, you'll fall in love with them. So nobody look at me too closely. I'll keep looking down. But Peter, don't look him in the eye, else he'll have you ringing, which I thought was a great line. But as I say, I'm not overly familiar with it, but I do know a lot about leadership, soft skills development, resilience, team working, and all those different things. Because I'm academic psychologist, and I do research. I'm passionate about giving psychology away. I've always wanted to share psychology with people that can benefit from it. It's not always been to the benefit of my career because I'm not as excited about writing lots of academic papers. I'm more excited about talking to people and sharing ideas if they can take something useful away. So, if you've got anything to ask me afterwards, you can. So, what I'd like to think is bringing a bit of my skills together with your obvious skills and see if we can create something great from that. I mean, what I do realise, having looked into what you do, is you're obviously a very dedicated group of people who are trying to preserve this wonderful thing, this cultural heritage and so on. And it seems like, you're probably people who are very committed to precision, doing things well, doing things properly. And to me, I love all of that. I love that whole devotion, commitment to something very, very important that's quintessentially what a lot of people would notice. A bit like at lockdown when we noticed things when they weren't there. I think we'd definitely notice if bells weren't ringing, even if we're not interested in that. You'd notice it. You'd notice the gap, the auditory gap on the in our lives. So it's really, really important. So just want to do, I do slides, do notes, and then go all over the place. This is why I can't be a bell ringer. Because if I was in your tower, I think you'd be really, really irritated. I'd be laughing at innuendo. I might bring a bottle of something in, but you'd be really irritated with me. So if you can deal with me, you can deal with anyone. That's why I'll have to. Oh, trying to work out where the down button is on this one. There you go. So the key focus really for me is this idea. I think, yes, you're teaching things, but you're teaching so much more than perhaps what you realise. You're teaching so many wonderful things, and that's what I'd like to try and get across. My visit to All Saints was quite interesting. I faced with that. I thought, what the hell's that? Angela said to me, by the way, when you go up there and when you come back down, you'll have to hang your leg over into nothingness. I was like, what? She said, you'll just have to hang your leg over and trust it. I was like, what do you mean? Into nothingness. And I realised what she meant when I tried to get down. It was quite difficult. I'm a bit scared of heights, but that's obviously not that exciting. But I realised that you're reaching these lofty ideals whenever you go up into a tower. The other thing I noticed, what a small group of people you really are, because I went there and there's Sally. I said, oh, no, Sally. And there she was looking at me. I also saw this technical stuff that I couldn't understand what any of that was. But I don't know what it is. And then the pride of things that are on the bells. I wanted to go and have a look at the bells. That's what I really wanted to do. But, it was a lovely spot up in there. And how intimate these spaces are. So you need to get along, don't you? Because it's a very intimate, you can't have body odour or bad wind, can you? Let's be honest. It's quite an intimate place. So I just wanted to ask you, how many years have you? So I found this. I nicked things off the internet. Biennium. I didn't even know. I bet you knew that was what 2 years was called, didn't you? because you're people who know things about. Who on a scale of like 0 to 102, how many people have been like 0 to 20 years? No, 0 to 5 years involved in bell ringing. 5 to 10 years. 10 to 20 years. 40 years plus. A bit random. No way. No way you're old enough. 50 years. 60 years. Wow. I mean, God, it's amazing. I'm not a bell ringer and I'm not, maybe, but I've been at Loughborough University for 33 years on the 1st of April. That's a bit of devotion, isn't it? So I get where you're coming from. That's amazing. So why did you stay? Shout out a few words to me why you stayed. What were the reasons you've stayed in bell ringing? Sorry? Addiction. Ooh, a relationship. Yeah, I knew you were saucy. You were saucy. A relationship. Anyone else? Fun? So, yeah. Did somebody say survival though? I misheard that. My hearing's gone. But maybe survival. So it's fun. Anything else? Friendship. Something new? Did somebody say something new? Always something. I've always felt like that. I still feel like there's other things, and I think when there's always something new, that is exciting, isn't it? One more? Challenge. Yeah, that's obviously a good one. So why do others leave then? Why do people not stay? What might be the reasons people don't stay? They get frustrated because they think it should be easy. That's a bit like me on a date. Anyone else? Children. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Family pressures. Stagnation. I can't always tell where, but stagnation.
Because the tower is making progress.
It doesn't. Ah, right. Interesting. And when you say the tower, that's like what's it? Illuminati. The tower. So the power in the tower. That's what you mean. So the tower is really a person, more likely. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because there are quite a few skills you need to start with.
Yeah.
And it tends to be slow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That is a problem.
Yeah.
Of how you teach a skill
Yeah.
that needs a lot of
Yeah.
exercise,
Yeah.
but you haven't got the time because you're going to do it quickly.
And it's got to sound good quite quickly as well.
Yeah.
It's probably why I never learnt an instrument. I wanted to play music. I wanted to play Wild as the Wind by David Bowie. I learnt Wild as the Wind on a guitar. That's it. That's all I learnt. David Bowie. Did somebody else have a hand up there before?
Similar. It's just people's ideas.
Yeah. 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 Because it becomes addictive as well, then, by the sounds of it. So is somebody else over there as well? Yeah, unrealistic expectations. Oh, it's not. I thought, will they participate? Yeah. People don't want to feel stupid. Yeah.
Two things. Frustration, either because of lack of progress.
Yeah.
Too much progress.
And others not catching up.
The other one is personal conflicts.
Yeah. With the tower. The tower. Yeah. Age.
Yeah, so have young ringers coming.
Yeah.
And then walk in. Yeah. But Adam Jones provide ringers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like
Old people. Yeah. 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 And then yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm not trying to rush. It's just I'm realising it's lots of contribution. Yeah. Injury. Yeah, because it's a physically exerting thing, isn't it? I mean, yeah, 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 yeah. Because when I was watching the bell ringers in third, I was thinking, my God, how the hand's not blistered. And one of the lads, his little feet kept going up. He was like this, and we were talking about how you can go up with the bell and all of that, go up with the rope. I thought, oh my God, it's risky. It's quite edgy. Tom Cruise he could be your poster boy. Did someone else have it? So, yeah. Yeah, I said this in Thurkeston. They said Peter. I think Peter's 92. So I thought, you know what? It's no excuse for me. I was on all fours. We're up and down these stairs. But I think that's a very, it's quite daunting, isn't it? And physically, possibly, that's the only way up, isn't it? So yeah, really good point. Would you want one more from this? I know you can't. I could be in the bell. I didn't tell about tower because my brain goes all over. Yeah, so scary just to learn. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you're all amazing. I think it's really interesting. But of course, there is this issue, isn't there? I managed to find a cartoon of. Oh, can't quite. It's George. It says there. I don't know why it's weird at the bottom. You know, poor George having. Is there anyone called George in the room? Um, as I said, I never look at my notes, but I need to remind myself if there's anything else I wanted to say. So I mean, that's like Notre Dame, and you look and think there's something very symbolic about the stairs to this place, isn't there? That it is a long climb, but when you're up there, the view must be wonderful. But oh, is it that? See, this is why I'm not a bell ringer and you are. You see, I'm like, what could it possibly be in the way? But what amuses me is, there's this extent of just the sheer climb to things. So if I say what do bells mean to you, what things come to mind? Word, just things, bells, what do they mean to you? Tradition, rhythm, ooh, rhythm, community, pattern, pub. As you say that, wouldn't you, Sally? Pub. Yeah, great big bells. Sorry, can't stop laughing. The loud, yeah. Lots of, yeah. Music, because that's the thing. I think it's easy to fit. Well, you probably don't forget it's music, but it is music, isn't it? Music to our ears. So I've thought about what I think about, and I think about that, and it's been an earworm now. Anita Ward. I won't sing it, but ring my bell, which is that. One of my first encounters with bells. I loved Quasimodo in the Charles Lawton in the original film. And jingle bells, obviously, everyone thinks they love bells, don't they? And tubular bells. Remember tubular bells if you're a certain age? But that to me as well is what I want to think. A lovely calmness, lovely. There's obviously frantic behaviour going on in the tower, of fear, and all these things you're telling me. But that lovely feeling. But a lot of it is really, isn't it? This calling people together. It's a. They're there about dinner, yes, dinner bell, yeah. But that calling people together, sending out a message. It could be a warning, of course. It could be something not as pleasant, but there's something, bringing people, isn't it? It's a really lovely image, I thought there, of that. But what made me laugh about, I was talking to my brother, who I always talk to my brother about anything I'm doing like this, and he gets very involved in it as well. And he knows somebody who's a Dutch guy actually, and he said, "Oh, it's quite interesting because it might be becoming the new wild swimming potentially. If you want anybody wild swim before I say anything about it." Oh, okay. I won't say anything about wild swimming. Well, sorry. No, it's just I just know a lot of like middle-aged women probably not, who are trying to find themselves through wild swimming, but and forgetting that the one I'm thinking of is always wild and never seems to calm down when she does it. So I don't know what the purpose is. But he said this guy he knows went with his wife to do bell ring because he thought it might bring them back together because they're not getting on very well. Anyone ever use bell ringing for that? It didn't work. It didn't work, by the way. So marriage guidance, bell ringing. What's the source of all of our The key thing is it's this moments of significance, isn't it? It punctuates the quiet. It's a significance, isn't it? And the trouble is probably younger generations don't always realise it's there and think about what it means. Maybe as those of us who are older do, but it's still there, isn't it? So I think the popularity of it and this lovely coming together is really important. I just thought, and I was trying to have a look at some of them. You might already be doing all the things I would talk about, but when you're seeking new bell ringers, what are some of the key words? Sorry, my nose is running out. A bit cold, isn't it? A bit of a breeze. Do you say in adverts when you're looking for new bell ringers? What are you offering? What are the key words? What are the sort of ways that you try to attract people in? What are you sort of saying to bring new people into bell ringing? Community, social, exercise. Yeah. It depends who you're aiming for, yeah? Yeah. Yeah. I suppose that's the difficulty. You're probably aiming at two ends of the spectrum more than people in the middle are possibly a bit too busy, young families, and younger people and older people. You're aiming at different types of people. For me, I think I've always had this thing about dusk to dawn and dawn to dusk and how we should communicate more with people across our age span. And the whole intergenerational element of it to me is really appealing. And I think that's a wonderful thing that a lot of kids, well, I'm jumping ahead to something else, but a lot of young people are very disconnected. I know from working with students over the years, they might have very successful parents, but they don't always see them that often, or they're not that, they're not as connected in the communities. And there's a lot of big disconnection problem, which I've just jumped one of the slides now. So when I come to it again, I've already mentioned it. Anything else about keywords and things that you use?
Fun.
Fun? Yeah? And how do you convince them it's fun? Tell them. You will enjoy yourself. You like laugh and smile. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Yeah. Can you do videos of people hanging up on a rope when they no? Well, I think you'd get probably quite a bit of a take if people thought they were hanging on the upside of a rope. So, who is typically attracted to bell ringing then? What sort of people what are you? Who are you? You all sound good fun to me. What kind of people do you find are typically attracted then? Sorry?
Staying power,
Yeah. Yeah.
the handling.
Yeah. 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 Do they know that before they come along then? Do they say, I've got staying power, I'm going to be a bell ringer? Because you don't always know, do you, until you're in that position. But you might know you're somebody who is good at being committed to routine, who will turn up, who isn't defeated easily, who likes the routine of things, or likes building up a skill. But you're not always sure. And you can't always be certain, can you? But it's that lovely self-efficacy, that self-confidence that goes, you know what? I'll give that a go. I mean, there's loads of things I'm not very self-efficacious about. Then there's others that I am. And there might be different things that you wouldn't feel like that about in life, but you feel confident that you could give that a go. And that's a great feeling, isn't it? Somebody else have the hand? Yeah? Yeah, I've heard that quite a lot of times. Anyone well, I won't ask actually, you might not want to, but my favourite people, neurodivergent people. I mean, I'm supposed neurodivergent in that I'm not diagnosed with anything. At the university at the moment, everyone's diagnosed with ADHD. I want to get a bit of that because it might help me, I think. But I do know I think I have got an ADHD type of brain because I know I have, and I know I'm fidgety and all of that. There's lots of things about me. I think I probably am a little bit on there. My brother's the same. But being a psychologist, my personality type is like that. So anyone I meet that's same as me, we're all like that. It's just how we are. Sorry? No, I'm thinking because I'd be just laughing at all innuendo all the time. Dear. Look, see, they didn't say, what's your name, sorry? See, they should have said, don't look at Jessica's eyes. Because that's the problem I've got. Yeah, I think I am. I think I am. You can all see, can't you, as well? I'm talking myself into it. But how open are you then to people like me then that will probably be very disruptive? How are you? Because often we end up recruiting in our own likeness, don't we? And attracting in our own likeness. It's the same in any kind of job, isn't it? Often people do want more of the same. And if you want people who are very reliable and trustworthy, who will get it, who will you might actually miss out sometimes. I mean, I remember somebody from Coca-Cola came to the university, been an alumni of ours, and he said, "Oh, we've not recruited anyone for 2 years, a graduate in 2 years." So I was like, "Well, why not?" Well, they've just not had the soft skills. That's all. The reason is you put adverts out and you only want a 2-1 or above. There's a lot of kids that I work with who often are very socially skilled but aren't getting 2-1s. So if you start making your recruitment is that level, you're going to miss out on some people that would bring something else. But the difficulty you've got, I suppose, is you need the precision so it sounds good. Because is it all about sound, or is it all about it irritate the hell out of you? Because that's the thing you've got to think about, isn't it? Would it matter in a village if it went bong, when it should have gone bing? Does it really matter? Yeah, but does it though? I'm a villager. Does it really matter? Well, there. I mentioned to you, didn't I? Could you do Star Wars? Maybe you could do some more modern theme. My little 2-year-old granddaughter loves Star Wars. And with her mum and dad, when she got a little bit bigger, like 1.5, because I introduced her to Star Wars on May the 4th, and she fell in love with Darth Vader big time. I mean, she just loves Darth Vader. And I'm not emotionally moved. I'm just got a watery eye. And she said, "Oh, I want Durder, I want Durder." Well, she loves John Williams' music, and I found this orchestra. It's a youth orchestra, I think, from Poland, and she wants it all the time. And there's one note that goes, and I spot it. But you know what? My granddaughter loves it. It does irritate me when I hear it because I don't think that's in the original. One of those, somebody on a, has made a duff note, but we watch it hundreds of times over, and she gets such joy from it. Who cares? And it's actually become quite a nice thing that I know when that note's going to happen, and I think that's a young person trying really hard in all that pressure, and one of them's just done a bum note. But does it really matter? It's got thousands of views on. I've not looked at the comments though, in case it says bum note, and it's probably from me. Sorry.
Choose to block.
Yes.
To turn it down.
Yeah.
Somebody's living right next to a church. Haven't got that.
No, that's true, isn't it? That's true. But you know, the thing is, this is one of the things, isn't it, about is it precision or is it participation? And these are things obviously you have to decide about, don't you? But I get what you're saying, and you're right. But if they're living next to the church, tough if it's got a dumb fun now, actually. They're benefiting from all the other notes, aren't they? And they should be glad they're next to a church that plays music. But then again, that's how I am.
One of my observations is that people who don't ring, they may appreciate when it's good, but
Yeah.
they definitely know when it's not.
Yeah.
And they know the two bells coming down at the same time.
Yeah.
It's definitely not right. So
Yeah.
more comments when it's not right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And it is difficult because I remember my cousin's wedding. He's not around now, but my uncle-in-law, if you like, he played the organ at St Asaph's Church. It wasn't the cathedral. He'd always said it was. It was a church in North Wales. But you know, he was playing it, so it was terrible. But we're all like that because it was just such a you can't get away from it, can you? But I suppose the issue is rising above it because that fear of failure or that fear of someone else failing might actually inhibit or block out people. But you know what you're doing. I'm just saying from an outsider. And if people are critical, people troll everything these days. You wouldn't do anything, would you? You wouldn't do a thing because there's horrible people just waiting to. But you say you have a go then. You know they wouldn't do it, would they?
No.
So it's almost like having thicker skin, really, sometimes, isn't it? Or being a lizard because everyone's lizards now, aren't they? Have you said? Do you go on social media? Everyone's a lizard. How many lizards have we got here today?
No idea.
It's just this awful thing that the conspiracy theories that everyone's a lizard and it's terrible. That's why kids are screwed up. Yeah.
I think in a place where their leader scholar is across way from us.
Yeah.
And people don't know what change ringing is.
Yeah.
And one of the ladies I mean regularly on my she said, "Oh, you were doing such a great job last Sunday." And there was kind of jazzy thing.
Chelsea says. Yeah. Well, that's why I was asking you about the Star Wars. How often could you play something that isn't the sort of stuff you normally play? And people would go, "Wait a minute, isn't that such and such a thing? Isn't that the opening lines to Star Wars?" Do you know what I mean? How often could you play something else just to attract? Because people notice difference. That's why they notice the duff note, even if they're not musical, because it doesn't flow. But they also notice things that are just the attention goes and attracting people in. Sometimes that might be a way, So I'd already mentioned about disconnected youth, and I think one of the things is that there is this feeling that a lot of kids spend a lot of time in their own rooms. They spend a lot of time on social media. They're not necessarily connected or feeling connected, and it's heartbreaking, really, that they don't feel. And maybe these are ways that you can move in, get in there quick and help people feel connected. And I think society really needs people like yourselves. They need the sort of things that you're doing. And I suppose a lot of what I'm saying is it's not just about the precision and the music. It's offering something else. It's something bigger than that. It's something that's opportunity to engage people and make them feel like they are part of something, even if they don't stay. But we'll move on to things like that, because one of the other key things is this whole area of skills. And the government, recently, increasingly, are talking about young people getting back into music, the sense of belonging, and having something that they can participate in. But a lot of it also is this lack of softer skills. So many young people are online all the time. They talk via text speak. There's not as much face-to-face communication. There's a lot of that, and I love it. I mean, I love the fact that I don't have to see people a lot of the time because I don't always want to be with people. But I've had years and years of a lot of that face-to-face communication to learn from. So we talk a lot about hard skills and soft skills. And soft skills actually are the harder skills because they're the ones where you're trying to give somebody proper feedback to bring about change. A lot of what you do is around the harder skills, isn't it? The technique, the technical stuff. But the tough stuff is all of this. the softer skills that people need to develop. And there is a gap in society. Yeah. Yes. No. Yeah. 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 I suppose perhaps what I appreciate what you said. I'm not saying you've only got hard skills. Maybe it appears like you're selling the hard skills are the things that we need to have in order to be a bell ringer. People might fear that they haven't got the technical skills and it's all about that. Whereas really, I agree with you, most of what you're doing is around the soft skills. So you have a great opportunity to work with anyone, especially young people, to develop the skills that they're not always getting from other situations, and throw music in as well. And you've got this wonderful combination. And if we think about this whole disconnection and this whole idea of lack of soft skills and so on. Where does this lack of soft skills in broader society come from? Where do you think the lack of soft skills comes from? Because it's definitely a gap. Reporting a lot on this gap. What do you think are some of the key issues? Definitely, yeah. The measurement element. Everything's measurable. League tables. Yeah. Great. Anything else? Yeah. Everything's on screen. Yeah. 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 I mean, this is might sound very critical of this, but years ago there was an issue. A student had been in touch with us before they came back to uni. And I don't think we've been quick enough to respond. And the father wrote a horrible email in. And what made me laugh though, sorry, I've done this before when people go, I know him. Well, if you know him, tell him he's a bit of an arsehole. Anyway, he emailed and said, I don't think my daughter this, my daughter that. In our weekly Skype chats he was based in Thailand, so she lived here with her mum, they were divorced. In my weekly Skype chats, I asked her how she's been connected, and I thought, in that one sentence alone, I'm not a substitute for you in my weekly Sunday night Skype chats. And it's not obviously he's over in Thailand, but the point is, you're not doing your job because you didn't reply quick enough. I picked this up in my Skype chats. Now, Skype and Teams give us loads of opportunity for communicating, but people use it as an excuse, don't they? And I know from people I know who are neurodiverse, they found it quite difficult moving on to Teams in COVID because this kind of said, struggling enough when people are in person. Now I'm really struggling picking up the subtleties of communication on Teams. And he found it really, really difficult. So it's not always that inclusive. Anything else about where the gaps come from? Sorry? Yeah. It did make a massive difference, didn't it? We're still affected by it. Yeah. Yeah. Technical stuff. I mean, there's loads of things. Just checking the clock there, I'm panicking. Obviously, the measurement, this outcome thing that you said. Finance. Sometimes people can't afford to have after school clubs and so on. Yeah.
When I was
Yeah. Yeah.
friends, like
Yeah.
the field in the woods.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And we have to be resilient.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
and
Yeah. 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 Mm,
there are places.
no. I mean, this is, yeah. Mm,
The bad guys out there when
yeah.
help with your children.
Mm, mm,
And
I know. So, have your hand up as well? Yeah. I mean, it is true, isn't it? Wouldn't have even had the word resilience then, because it wouldn't have been a word we needed to use. So, yeah.
Yes, something you touched on, but I think government policies have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Pushing STEM subjects
Yeah.
and getting rid of the arts.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think this is what they're meant to be pushing now again, aren't they? Especially music, but whether or not it'll, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, what? Sorry.
Said about time to.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I'll just carry on a bit because I've got this thing about technology, also this obsession with celebrity and individualism and my brand and personal brand and not necessarily a collective element. But of course, again, that's what bell ringing is all about, isn't it? So there's gaps there that I think you could be selling yourself more in that space because that's what you actually do. So in terms of teaching, what do you aim to teach? We've talked a lot about things that you're doing, and I think I'm just conscious of time a little bit because we started a bit later. So just a few comments. What do you aim to teach? What's your key driver for teaching? They won't say I'm not speaking to you now. Then now you said be quick. I'm not saying anything.
Yeah. Well, we had this sort of conversation before, and we got asked, and we were asked a university professor, and he will say transfer of knowledge.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
but the primary school teacher or first school teacher will say enthusiasm to learn, and
yeah,
I think that's where most of us.
yeah,
I've come from an engineering background
yeah,
to learn how to teach the enthusiasm to
Yeah.
learn, which is
Yeah.
the key thing.
yeah,
Not necessarily all the skills and what have you.
yeah.
To
That whole-
generate that
yeah.
enthusiasm.
That they can then transfer that attitude
Yeah.
beyond
Yeah.
that,
So
beyond there.
the teachers in their profession,
Yeah.
if they're very as well,
Yeah,
they're much better at it
yeah, yeah,
because they've already learnt that soft skill of
yeah,
trying to encourage people to learn.
yeah. Good. Somebody behind first.
The feeling of success.
Yeah,
Every time I teach somebody, I like them to go out of the tower with that feeling that they have
yeah,
managed even just the slightest step.
yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Because that's what gets them back into the
Mm.
tower.
Exactly. That's a really good, really good points. Two more, and then only because I'm conscious I want to share lots of other things with you. For you first, then, yeah, is that okay? I'm not deliberately got my back to you then. I keep seeing that. It's my peripheral vision because I'm a lizard. You see the difference.
We want to teach all those things, but actually, what we want to teach is we want to teach them how to read.
This is
That's
ultimately,
the thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Thanks.
Teaching them to let go of their mistakes if they're making them.
Well, yeah. So it's a means to an end. So these are all obviously. I mean, when I'm looking at things that I think you're also teaching, there probably might be things that you've not heard before, but team coordination. Those are skills that they'll take throughout life. Timing and listening, emotional regulation. That's a very key thing. That links into resilience. Responsibility, intergenerational social skills, delayed gratification. That's what probably quite a lot of you have got, that ability to delay gratification. I'm only talking about in your bell ringing. But that sort of knowing that it's not going to be great straight, you have to wait for things. Attention under pressure, collective achievement. All those sorts of things there are things that you're teaching, which are absolutely essential skills that kids don't often get the chance to learn enough, but are really crucial to take through life. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of models, theories that each one has a certain thing. And some of the things you've already said. So what might be some useful things for you when you're thinking about your tower? I've gone way ahead from my where am I going now? Yeah, just in case. Because I never really look at them, but I like to have them in my hand. That's me. So self-determination is one theory by two people called Detchi and Ryan. And this is a theory around human basic needs. And they talk about these three key basic human needs. I mean, the thing in psychology, there's loads of frameworks, loads of models, and lots of people spending time trying to criticize them and everything else. But what I like is most of them have got some nuggets, that you can take away. So the idea with their model is that this is a model that does try to explain why people may choose to start something and choose to continue with something. And it's all around this being able to show competence. So being able to show competence is a key thing in why people would choose to stay. Being able to show some kind of autonomy and control. And it may be that's sometimes a bit limited, but the direction of their own lives and how they're doing things. But also relatedness, being able to relate to other people and have these affectionate relationships with other people. So even if we think about those three kind of ingredients, we're thinking about things that help make people stay. And are we able to make sure that all those kind of things are present in the towers that we manage, leading or working? So we want people to say, I choose to ring. I'm getting better and I belong here. So it's not just about belonging; it's also about being able to display competence. And like we said, you're saying as well, it sometimes isn't as quick to do that. Another model is something called the Yerkes-Dodson rut. It's all about arousal. Can I say arousal to you without you get too excited? And psychology, we can say arousal, and it's all very okay to say it in a public place. But the idea, this is what performance anxiety kind of thing, and some of you may have had that in other contexts, but I'm not going down that road. But Yerkes-Dodson law is about low and high levels of pressure, and that we want to try and get this optimal balance to bring about people's performance. And obviously, if you're in a situation where your performance is very audible, very obvious, it's quick, you might not be as skilled. You may well be more vulnerable to, freezing, not being able to move on, but also being bored. And somebody said that, one of you said, when you're the impatience or the feeling that you're too, you've moved on and other people maybe aren't catching up with you. So it's about creating the right level of support, really, so that people can exist in this optimum level. And it also links into another sort of psychological. Oh, sorry, hang on. I want to say that. So in reality, how it might be experienced, maybe for people that are quite new. It's a high precision activity. It's very public if you make a mistake. Like you say, if you live next door, you're like, oh, they're at it again. It's that newbie again or whatever. There's a strong correction culture, obviously, isn't there? Because that's how it is. Fear of letting the team down. Few visible early wins. You can have copies of these if you want them. Can send them to you. So, early wins are really important in any kind of goal setting, any kind of achievement. There's a vision. We're going to play whatever it is you might be playing, but it's what's a visible win now, and understanding how people see that it's not just the main tune or the main thing that you're doing that you're aiming towards. It's step by step other things, and there is often a serious tone and embarrassment and all these little things. And one of the things that links into that is our amygdala. Do you know about them? Probably there's some sciencey people in here that know more about the amygdala than I do, but the amygdala is the sort of almost like the little primitive part of the brain that does this fight or flight response. And I don't know if you ever heard this, they call the amygdala hijack. And often when we're anxious, the amygdala sort of hijacks our brain, and it almost like closes down the cognitive processing element. Are you a scientist? Or are you just smiling? I thought it was just smiling. Yeah, nothing about the amygdala. How's the hijack? What was that? You know nothing about it. There's always that fear, isn't there? There's somebody in here who's a neuroscientist, so it's highly likely in a group like this. But the thing is with the amygdala, it's only tiny, but it sort of can play havoc with us. And that's what you're competing with, is somebody's amygdala that might go, I'm too anxious now. This is too, shuts down all the rational of you going, come on, let's try again. Emotional, running, flouncing out from the tower, down, out, round. I doubt you can flounce out when you've got a staircase like that. But you imagining that you're competing with that little tiny bit of somebody's brain and there's a great Steve Peters who trained the cyclist, the chimp paradox. That's always worth having a look at. The chimp on your shoulder, the primitive thing, good. And we need to try and help people get over that chimp or understand that the amygdala hijacks and take a deep breath, calm, take some time out, soothing words. We also talk about psychological safety, and psychological safety is something else. It's reasons why people might stay and grow and develop, because they know they can be themselves, they can make mistakes, no one's going to punish them for it, because a lot of stuff is in people's heads. However hard you work, it can be inside people's heads. And I think sometimes we might feel things are psychological danger. We don't want to admit mistakes. We don't have the common knowledge. There might be a bit of blame, and we're less likely to share how we feel and our views. But what we're trying to create is this psychological safety where people feel that they can admit mistakes, and that's fine. That they can learn from failure, they can innovate maybe, and there's probably not that much room for innovation in what you're doing, but they openly share their ideas. I found this little model I quite liked that talks about how, if we have high psychological safety where people can be themselves, they trust that they can be emotional sometimes and they can make mistakes. On this high standards, that's a learning zone, and that's really where you should be aiming for. Because low psychological safety and low standards is just a bit of an apathetic place to be. Low psychological safety and high standards, anxiety, and you're not going to get. People make mistakes. Even the most skilled people make mistakes when they're in anxiety mode. And high psychological safety and low standards, comfort. Some of you probably, I would never say you go for low standards, but when you're in that comfort zone, that's also not a great place to be either. So getting the balance of those two things. But another theory we've got in psychology, the fundamental attribution error, is basically when we look at other people's mistakes, we blame them for them. when it's our mistakes, we've always got a good reason as to why it's happened. So you need to remember that it's very easy to go, oh, somebody's late, it's because of this. But when you're late, it was because there was a crisis or something happening. Just remember that our brains often go to that blaming others, but never really blaming ourselves, unless you've got very low self-esteem and you blame yourself for everything. Can you remember making a mistake? Have you ever made a mistake? Make mistakes constantly. But you know how that sort of mistake is. And, think about how were you treated and how did you recover from it? What were the ingredients? If it was a disaster and it really made you feel bad, what were some of those ingredients that made that not work? Yeah?
Say to my dentist, just to keep it going a long time, look like they're not making mistakes. You.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah. And smiling sweetly, And I mean, the thing is, people don't always know what you did wrong or what you don't know. That's the problem for you, though, is it? Because people could, even a non-trained musical ear can hear a mistake. That's what, can't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember bringing a long piece of mistakes happen during.
Yeah.
One of the most important things is to be able to put that behind you and carry on. And I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
one of these soft skills
Yeah.
that's very valuable.
It's like dominoes otherwise, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think once
You're dwelling on what you did.
once you dwell, that's gone.
Yeah.
And it's it's the same with sport, isn't it? Once that chimp is activated, once the amygdala's gone like that. But I've got a bird cam just as a side to side. Treated myself for Valentine's Day. I knew I wasn't going to get anything, so I treated myself to a bird cam in the garden. The other night, rats on it. I know, but it was quite cute. There was a pair of them, and they were right in the camera going. It's actually quite. If you've got a spare £100 hanging around, treat yourself to a bird cam. It's great, but take it in at night. Otherwise, you got like that. But it's quite cute. Anything else about how you were treated about making a mistake? How can you remember? Can you remember when you've been soul destroyed and flounced out? Can you flounce out the tower? It's like a friend once got cross and tried to slam a tent flap. Have you ever done that? Slam the tent like that, and it was just, anybody storm out down all those stairs. Is it possible? But remember any bad experiences of yeah?
What I did was I just practiced more. I put myself dumbbells and
Mm.
everything.
See, if I make a mistake, somebody belittles me, that gives me an absolute years, yeah, bastards. I'm in there then. That's fire, for me, I must admit. I do like a bit be on the back foot. I quite like that. Yeah?
One of the things about bell ringing in the moment is it's quite loud up there. So
Yeah.
you have to, be shouted at, and it's a proper shout.
Yeah.
And I think for me, in terms of how I recovered from it, is then going and having a conversation with the person after.
Yeah.
To talk about what I did wrong.
Yeah.
So on.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
get away from that
Yeah.
shout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Is a big problem.
Yeah.
The bells are loud. And
Yeah.
to make yourself heard, you have to shout,
Yeah.
and it's very difficult to shout without sounding annoyed.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That then becomes a problem,
Yeah.
especially if you're shouting to somebody and you've
Yeah.
got everybody else watching.
Yeah.
It's a big problem for us.
Yeah. It is. So you have a hand up as well, and
In our town, so she was you or I'm not sure about trees. It's practice. You're allowed to go wrong.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the worst mistakes sometimes is the one where you expect to make mistakes when you're doing something new for the first time and it's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's part of learning, not exactly what I said actually. But one of the worst mistakes that really mortifies you is when you screw up in something that you mastered
Yeah.
18 months ago.
Yeah.
And you're actually probably ringing in that hand to try and help a learner.
Yeah.
It goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That feel terrible when that happens.
But they're the sort of moments of maybe go, look at that. Look at the mistake. I mean, I used to sail a lot, was never very good at it, and the ex-husband took it in the divorce settlement. But the point is, if you go sailing, you hear a lot of shouting because it's in the moment panic often from the person who's shouting. And I think, lots of couples probably say, you've got to have a bit of a thick skin. Maybe that's something about, having that thick skin and not knowing that when somebody shouts, and maybe you could get people practicing shouting at each other just to see that shouting doesn't always come from an angry place, but it's like sheer. I mean, I've done it with my little granddaughter. You go, stop it, don't touch it, because you can't get there quick enough, and you know that thing's about to go in the mouth,
Yeah.
or they're going to lick the dog's face or something like that, and you've got to shout at you sometimes. It's like, It's just urgency, isn't it? So it's a bit tricky, isn't it? But sorry, I'm going to move because can I have a little bit 5 minutes because I lost them? Oh, is that not good now? Okay, saw the face. No, no. Another social exchange theory is also about this: how we decide whether we continue or not, balancing the costs and the the benefits. So how far are we? How far are the costs too high for us? And if you're a young person, say, or even an older person with an ego, you might think that I'm not having somebody talking to me like that. How very dare they, and no one sees what I'm achieving. And so it's a two-way thing, isn't it? It's about you being kind and supportive. It's also about people, being a bit like toughing up a little bit, isn't it? But ultimately, if you want them to stay and be there, you've got to do a lot of the grown-up behaviour, haven't you? And there could be grown-ups we're talking about. But an ego's get in the way of so many things. People really respond to being humiliated, and so on and so forth. And I think one of the ways is that you can always admit to your own mistakes. And when you're a parent, I've had to admit to loads of mistakes with my kids because being a psychologist, kids they used to point them out to me in psychological terms, in no uncertain terms, and often very rude terms. I think another thing is this, shift. Looking for pictures of bell ringing on the internet, like I was, there's a very, it's a very, and it'll probably tie in with Julia's later, very fixed look about what bell ringers looked like historically. You've got very diverse audiences now. There's lots of diversity out there to tap into. And, we're trying to build people, young people especially, older people, because life can be pressurizing later, working in teams, recovering from mistakes. But we might be having to try to find ways to move from this perfectionism to one of opportunity and learning. Just a couple more concepts. Oh, did anybody yawn? Right, that's meant to be a sign of empathy. If you yawn when someone else does, you're hard, cold, and feeling lots. Honestly, I didn't see one yawn. I have to think about someone yawning or the yawning man on Tom Thumb, and it starts me off. Empathy, just a few quick things on empathy, because a lot of it is about empathy fundamentally. For empathy, the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experiences of another. Imagining what it's like to be someone other than yourself is at the core of our humanity. It's the essence of compassion, and it's the beginning of morality. Might you say if you're not very empathic? I'm not asking you because I'm just conscious of time, but these are the sort of things you might be someone who, if you're not very empathic, pull yourself together. You're not still going on about that, are you? There. I don't, it's my worst phrase ever. I don't suffer fools. Please never use that. It's my worst, almost as much as reaching out, which I don't like very much, unless it's the Four Tops singing about it. If you're not being empathic, what might others say to you? These are the kind of things people might say to you. So if you ever hear any of these kind of things, don't patronise me. Can't you just let me talk and you listen? You probably get that. You've probably heard that in relationships with bell ringing. But they're the sort of things that might give you a clue that the person isn't feeling seen or heard or empathised with. And how empathy sounds, it can sound a bit sickly if you do it too much like the textbook. But we're trying to say things like, I can understand when how frustrating it is, Jess, when you made a big mistake in front of all your trainees. I realise how complicated this is. I can't imagine how upsetting it must be when to feel like you've just fallen down those stairs and dropped the bottle of gin that you were carrying down. I know how confusing it must be when I'm so saying the right things. And there's different types of empathy. I'm a very strong empath and I get very emotional and feel things very strongly. But you might not be, but you can cognitively empathise. You can imagine intelligently what it might feel like. You don't have to feel it. You can think cognitively, you're all intelligent people. How might that feel if, you don't have to feel it. Sometimes feeling it is actually a disadvantage because it's a bit much. But it's also about compassionate and acting empathic. So compassion, empathic understanding so that you, driven by a bit of altruism, a great guy who was a non-exec director on PGL at PGL. Anyone on a PGL holiday ever? I trained them years and years ago, and I asked them to define things as a warm-up exercise, and he defined altruism as getting over your demons in order to do something for someone else. And I thought, what a great. So your demons might be horrible duff noises in the tower and mistakes, but it might be you have to overcome that demon to help someone else feel more confident, even when they're not making, when they're making a mistake. I love that definition. Because it's not about you, is it? And when you see compassion in action, I mean, Gareth was so sexy when he put a waistcoat on, wasn't he? Did anyone else fancy Gareth Southgate when he put a waistcoat on?
Yeah.
A minute.
Yeah.
I love a waistcoat, mate. But keep it on though. Keep the waistcoat on, Gareth, all the time. But he seems a compassionate person, and I think I love this quote as well: that resolved to be tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving, and tolerant with the weak and young. Because sometimes you'll be one of those or all of those, and looking out to others to empathise. Some of the skills related to that, of course, is that we're not always about telling people what to do. I love Mark Twain as well. Don't know if he had a waistcoat though, but anyway, I like him. Active listening, not always telling people what to do, hearing what they're saying, not always being the one who does the talking, letting people talk. It might be not, there's not time in the tower to do that often because it's frantic, but there must be other times. Let people speak to you. And also the art of good questioning. Rather than keeping things hidden, going under the surface, tell me a little bit more about this. What's been the hardest part of this for you? What matters to you most, etc. Asking powerful questions. Not what the hell do you think you're doing? That's not a question. Or Mrs. Do you remember Mrs. Merton? She said to Debbie McGee, tell me, Debbie, what first attracted you to the millionaire Paul Daniels? Remember that?
Yeah.
Or George Best, tell me, George, do you think if you hadn't have done all that running around, you wouldn't have been as thirsty? I mean, they're not questions. Whatever, you will probably be doing everything with the right intention. I'm doubt there's anybody here who isn't doing things with not the best intentions because you care, you want to do things well. You will be your intention will be sweet, but there also might be some lack of self-awareness in you. I mean, I'm not going to go through this too deeply, but the Johari window is this model of our awareness of self. How much do we know about us and other people know? How much do we keep to ourselves and keep hidden, but we know about us? How much do we never know until we're in a situation where it might be revealed, and it could be a strength or a weakness? But what's our blind spots? Other people see and we don't. So there might be things about you that other people go, it's like, don't look in Peter's eyes because he'll get you as a. I don't think that's a bad thing. But there might be things about you that you're not aware of how you come across, even when you're with the best intentions, that you might just not be as supportive as you can be. You might sound a bit accusatory. Your impatience to do something well might. I mean, I remember a learning point for me was when I was a young girl myself and I could crochet. Nothing too fancy, big granny blankets. I'm a granny now, so I should maybe do one now. And this somebody asked would I teach their daughter, who was lovely but a bit slow. Now I'm not very good, I think, with people that are a bit slow. I'm not being horrible. I am a bit impatient. And I was only probably about 10 myself, and she was 12, I think. And when she went, my mum said, I'm so annoyed with you. I was like, well, you were so impatient with her and rude. Because give it to me, give it to me, And you know what? It's a big learning point though, because my mum wasn't that assertive, and she wasn't. Everything was always wonderful, and you were lovely. But she told me off that day because she said you were really impatient with her. I think I was probably like that with my mum a lot as well. Oh, sorry, mum. But it was a good learning point at a young age. I was trying to teach her, but she wasn't doing it quick enough, and I was getting a bit irritated. And I'll do it myself. We don't mean to be like that. How many of you think you're like that sometimes?
Mm.
Not many hands going up though. I've just personally disclosed something there. So one question to think about, and not wanted because it's time now, is: have you ever been blindsided by feedback? Have you been shocked? That was a shock to me at the time, even though I was only young, and it made me get some insight. So I want you to take away and think how you could change. What changes might you make in your tower so that you can build the confidence in young and older people, so they can thrive, grow, and transfer their skills beyond. Maybe it's a bit more about belonging versus brilliance. I know that makes people go, like glitching. That's another thing, is glitching in the matrix. Have you not seen all this? The world's got lizards and glitching in the matrix. No wonder poor kids are disconnected. There are some nice examples of other similar sorts of groups that have done this sort of thing, the Scouts, Morris dancing. Anybody here a Morris dancer as well? But they've made some changes and are thinking to try and attract more people in. And it's because I can't, my brother said there's a word for it, I can't remember what it is now. Anybody know what the word is when you make stuff out of the words? Ekphrastic? Something? Acrostic? Yeah, that and that. Or he could have said I was acoustic. No, it's something like that. Agnostic? One of those. Anyway. I like this idea of bell longing. But we see, could be very dodgy. But belonging, belonging, belonging is obviously key. Encouragement, learning culture, laughter. I've really enjoyed this time. You know, you're lovely, aren't you? I'm not bell ringing though. Stop it. Give, not yet. Giving people leeway. Leeway. I used to be a sailor, bad at it, but leeway is a good word, I think. Ownership, allowing people to take ownership for things that they're doing. Normalizing mistakes. I know there's like panic then. Generosity of spirit, because that's what a lot of this comes down to, I think. Especially if you're a little bit competitive or perfectionistic. Generosity of spirit for me goes a hell of a long way. But I also, your money will well, give me your money as well. Individuality and identity. Not everyone is the same. And you possibly recruit in your own image, because that's what people do. Maybe it's thinking a bit outside that box. Nurturing and growth. You're growing people for fantastic things into the future. Linking it to this idea of the Sagrada La Familia, or whatever, I can never pronounce it in Spain, even though I've done 1,200 days on Duolingo, I can't pronounce that properly. When Gaudi created beautiful, wonderful things, do you think he knew he wasn't going to see it finished? And that's the way you growing young people, you might not see where they end up with, the skills that you've taught them, but just know that they will benefit and think like Gaudi, and you're passing on, this legacy as well is about sending that forward. So maybe I'd like to think there might be a few different things you might put in an advert or think about when you're recruiting. I'm also conscious of time. About an hour. There you go. Can I have any questions if anyone wants to know? Oh, who's in charge? Who am I scared of? Who am I scared of? Who? Oh yeah, where? Oh, there. Any time for questions or not? Because I don't want to ring very quick. Yeah, I'll stay around if anyone, or you're sick of the sound of me now. But any questions? Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe talking about empathy, maybe talking about it more openly. And I think, have you ever seen that? I'm not deliberately using a neurotypical person, but Sheldon. Have you ever watched loads of Sheldon stuff? When he kept rewarding what's her name with a chocolate every time he did something he liked. I mean, often we have to reward and reinforce behaviour. So that was really that was real empathy, or that was really kind. I like the way you supported that. I know you were grinding your teeth at that point, but that was really kind. Or we sometimes just have to we need to keep behaving the way. But if there are, no disrespect to any of you more neurotypical people, it's not deliberately they're not picking up the signals, but they're not. Neurotypical people aren't known for their subtle picking up of cues, are they? And I think sometimes you just have to label things and reward people verbally and say, "Oh well," unless it's somebody who doesn't like being publicly rewarded either, because not everyone wants you to say. But even just to hand, that I appreciated that then. Exactly, yeah. And I was teaching some Toyota managers 2 weeks ago, and somebody said something to me, and I went, "Oh," and he went, "That was a really patronising response." I realised over the course of the day he was a bit difficult, this guy, but he also had a very dry sense of humour. He said that was really patronising. I went, "Oh, I didn't mean to be," I do know sometimes I've had that said to me before. When I say things that are sincere, they don't always come out as well I want them to. But I do think some of that is labelling, behaving, and it seems patronising. Going, that was great, well done. But you're not going to say it like that, are you? Hopefully. Good question though. Anyone else? One more. So I've stunned you all into silence. Try to be upbeat because it's Saturday morning. We've all got. I want to keep you awake, mate. Basically. Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks, Vicky.